Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy.
All right, y'all. How y'all doing? I'm trying to use these claws here for Halloween, and it's difficult, right? So if you don't know me, my name is Devon Morris. I'm trying to make him look a little threatening, but it ain't working out so well. So anyway, Devon Morris here, the Unfiltered Show, where we talk about Agile, Scrum, entrepreneurship, all that kind of stuff. I'm definitely not gonna keep these things on because it is crazy and I can't press any buttons. Well, I just did press a button, it didn't work out so well. Let me try to press it again. Right, so there we go. That's the best that I can do, right? So anyway, welcome everyone, whether you're out there on LinkedIn or you're right here on YouTube. We're talking about Scrum, Agile. We answer your kind of questions that you may have about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, things of that nature, right? And so, hopefully you got questions today. If you don't, that's all right, because today we're going to talk about the 100 hour. 10 nightmares associated with Scrum. I even put some slides up so that I don't forget everything, right? I figured I would go with, I don't know, Jason / Freddy Krueger / I don't know. I just grab stuff, right? But anyway, welcome. I will say to you, say hi. You know, if you're out there in the chat, in the comments, say hi in the comments. Regardless of what platform you're on, make sure you say hi in the comments so at least I know you're out there. What's kind of been going on this week? Man, not a whole lot. Just doing the nice same work that we would always do, at least that I would always do. Coaching clients, class, CSPO class this morning, right? And so that'll go for the rest of the week, but this is how we do. So welcome. The way we work this is we put you in a position where you can actually ask questions, right? So what will happen is we will go through our topic, right? The 100 hour, 10 Agile Scrum Nightmares Unleashed. So we'll talk about that for, probably about 15, 20, 25 minutes. But by 8:30 tonight, we will be done with that topic and we will open up the comments for any questions that you have. Now, if everything works out right and, I get my interview going right like I didn't get it doing last week, you're welcome to join me on the show, join me live on the show, and I can answer questions. And that's always the best way to do things because it allows me to actually have an exchange with you. And the exchange is super valuable because you can ask me a question in the chat, but I don't get the contextual information, and so realistically, it would help me if you joined the show. But you don't have to do that. You can drop your comments. You can drop any questions, comments that you have right there in the comment section. So please be prepared to do that when we open up the floor. But we're going to have a good time tonight. Halloween is coming up. That's the reason why I got my kind of burnt hat to some degree. You see the little burns in it? So I got my burnt hat ready to go, right? And I got my claws, and I decided to go ahead and pull out some gear that I like, right? Yes, I graduated from Illinois, for those that don't know. And obviously, it's bearded eagle eyes because it's all I wear. I'm just saying, for real. So anyway, that being said, I'm actually good. So I'm actually, we're going to talk about this and we're going to have a good time talking about this tonight. But I cannot operate with these claws on. I'll put them on later maybe when when I don't have to press so many buttons. So I got to take this thing off. I may even take off the hat, y'all, because, I get hot. And once I get hot, it's over. I just fall out. That being said, let's talk, okay? Let's just jump into our topic, right? The haunting hour 10 Agile Scrum Nightmares Unleashed, right? And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and go to, and I actually got a few slides here just to kind of throw some things out there and for us to utilize. And so, the thing about Scrum, as you know, most of us don't do perfect Scrum. And if we don't do perfect Scrum, we definitely run into some things that can cause our nerves to be a little bit on edge, right? And when you think about eerie shadows, spine-tingling whispers, just spooky nightmares out there that you see that haunt every single Scrum team, right? And whether it is things with the product owner or things with the Scrum Master or things with teams or just people even outside of the team just a tad bit, all these things are important for us to deal with and to talk about moving forward. So let's talk about these things and again, say hi in the chat so I can shout you out a little bit later. But the very first thing on my list is probably one of the most important ones to me, and that is a ghostly product owner. Now, here's the deal. Many of you have experienced this already. Okay, where you have a product owner that is never, ever, ever, ever around. I have experienced this since the very beginning of me doing Scrum, period, where they just don't show up. And I think it's one of the worst things to deal with in terms of Scrum. If they're not around, they really can't give you any clarity about anything. They aren't available to answer any questions that you, the team, may have. They just kind of disappear. They don't even show up to the sprint review. Now, there could be other reasons why this is a problem, but when they just not showing up for the sprint review, even though we don't expect that to be a place where the product owner gets feedback, but if they just don't show up at all, that's a whole different kind of problem. And so it's really tough when you have a product owner that just is not there. They're a ghostly product owner. They're not there for the team. They're not there to help us move forward in any way that possible. Here's the problem with that. It leads the team to be wandering aimlessly with no direction on where they're going, like they are lost souls in an abyss, in a limbo that they cannot get out of. You really don't want that to happen on your teams, right? People are motivated by purpose, autonomy, and mastery, purpose being that primary thing, right? And so if your team is in limbo, you have a whole situation. It's not something that you want to deal with. So that ghastly product owner is pretty much the number one thing on my list, and I run into it all the time. Let's talk about the next thing. The next thing on my list is a zombie stakeholder. Zombie stakeholders are very interesting because they kind of emerge every once in a while from their graves. Like, they'll show up at the beginning of an effort, but then the next time you see them is at the end of the project. They have said nothing at all during that entire time. And then they show up demanding things from you, right? Demanding changes. They are resurrecting requirements that's been dead years ago. And so you're in a position when that zombie stakeholder, especially if they're a zombie stakeholder that has some power, you're really in a messed up situation, right? Because you're kind of stuck. You're kind of in that position where it's just like, what the heck do I do? We try to do everything to get you involved, but you didn't get involved whatsoever. What it does to the actual team is it puts the team in that panic mode where, okay, now we got to do rework. Now we got to revise things. It's just a monstrous problem to deal with, especially if you've been trying to get folks engaged the entire time. So trust me, you do not want to deal with that zombie product owner. It's really kind of unfair to most teams. Well, let's continue the conversation with number 3, and that is the never-ending sprint. Now, most of you all have run into this situation as well. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, but on a true nightmare level, because it's like this loop in time from some horror movie. The sprint just never, ever ends. like you can't get it to be done. And sprints are a function of time, right? And so tasks keep getting added, requirements keep getting added. It makes the ending of the sprint ever so elusive. And you're trying to get to that end, but you never do. There's always a reason why you need to push the date out for the end of the sprint. It's just something that you don't want to handle. You don't want to ever run into the problem. But have you ever run into this problem? If so, let me know. Drop it in the comments. But here's the deal. When I think about this one in general, what it does for the team is it wears them out, man. It really, truly wears them out. There is a level of despair, disdain that happens within the team when they cannot end that sprint. Especially when they start thinking about, hey, we do Scrum. No, we ain't doing Scrum at all because this thing never ends. We always keep adding stuff, right? Probably the biggest problem when I've experienced it is that it's draining. It's really, really draining. It's like, when the end of a sprint normally means I could take a breather of some kind. But in this situation, it's never ending, man. And so you can't get that breather, so you just really get exhausted and worn out, right? And so that's not a place where anyone really wants to be. Well, here's the deal. We're not done there, right? Our next one is that Franken backlog. That Franken backlog. Some of you all have experienced this thing. And what do I mean? That product backlog that's been stitched together in some haphazard way with all different kind of mismatched parts. There's no prioritization. There's no clarity. You can't get a real picture of what you're doing. And so you just have a situation where you're just working through stuff. And just to be working through stuff is also one of these never-ending problems. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're just working for the sake of being working, right? Working on pieces that don't really go together. Because when it's time to deliver pieces, you run into bigger problems. And so whenever I think about this, right, I say to myself, this is where I see the team is confused. Confusion just reigns all over the place, and the team keeps starting and stumbling. They keep starting and stumbling, right? They're trying to figure out how to deal with this monstrosity. But the monstrosity never ends because people keep stitching things into it. So you just end up with just an overall problem, right? And so you do not want a Franken backlog. A Franken backlog is going to just cause you to have a bunch of missteps. You don't want to have a bunch of missteps. Well, that's not it for the nightmares, right? Because if you continue with the nightmares, we add into it the sprint of the living dead. The sprint of the living dead. Well, here's the deal. Have you ever been in a situation where you have had that sprint that has no energy, no enthusiasm? Everybody's just walking around just like, I'm here. The team is dragging themselves to work. They're dragging themselves through tasks. They're dragging themselves through everything, right? There's no passion. There's no motivation. It's devoid of anything that you would see exist in life in general. You don't want to have a sprint of the living dead. I mean, when you think about it, the biggest impact that it has, the nightmare for this thing is innovation dies. You'll find that quality plummets, right? You'll find that people are only there because they got to have a job. They're just going through the motions at this point. And do you really want people that are going through the motions? It's not what you want, right? So I see you all here. If you like what I'm talking about here the day before Halloween, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell, right? But that's not going to stop us there because our next thing, and let me show you my little slides here since I took time to create them. The next big thing on our list is going to be the curse sprint. I mean, not the curse retrospective. The curse retrospective. the retrospective is an extremely important event, right? The curse retrospective is kind of like the opposite of getting constructive feedback. I mean, you've experienced it, right? You've experienced that situation where there's pointing fingers, there's a bunch of blame, a bunch of negativity has happened. It's like a curse that's pervasive across the team. It definitely has a big, huge impact on team morale. That will soon have impacts on all other things that the team does. And so you don't want a situation where you have a curse retrospective because people just don't want to even go to them anymore, right? And so what will happen for the team is that trust plummets, trust erodes, right? The atmosphere around this team becomes really, really toxic. It's just like shadows of resentment just lurking in the darkness, waiting to say something that ticks other people off, and then you just come out with no real actionable things. The Scrum Master's running around doing everything to try to make things. Maybe even the Scrum Master's horrible too, and they're passing blame. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this before, but you've heard of the Scrum Master that's passing blame and being super negative. I've heard of that. If I see it, I would deal with it accordingly and try to get that person to be right. But it's just something that happens, right? It's definitely something that happens. But that's not it, y'all, right? That's not it. I got more of the stuff, right? What about the silence of the stand-ups? The silence of the stand-ups. The stand-up is one of the most messed up events in all of Scrum, right? You're talking about a daily Scrum that is quiet as a mouse. Like it's eerily quiet, right? You have a team here that isn't really providing any real synchronization, any real updates to each other. Even things that go wrong, they don't let the rest of the team know about it. It's almost like we're just here and we really don't want to talk to each other at all. We really don't want to talk about meeting that sprint goal or whatever it is. So it's just real quiet. You don't want that, right? What you're going to find is collaboration in this situation completely halts. The issues that exist just continues to grow. They continue to grow in uncontrolled ways, right? And it will spill into many other things. So you want to be real careful when you see that eerily quiet daily stand-up, daily scrum, daily huddle, whatever you want to call it, right? That's not it where we're at. Let's talk about this next thing here, right? The next thing is the shape-shifting requirements. Now, we all know we work in an arena where requirements are likely going to change. I mean, the truth of the matter... Oh, I done did that wrong thing. Why would you do Scrum at all if you are not going to be in a situation where things are going to change? You're going to have that situation occur, right? And when you think about it, is when you think you know what's expected, requirements just start to change without warning. They start morphing into something completely unrecognizable. And you'll see this happen more inside of sprints where you can't even 70%, 80% of what you committed to keeps changing, right? That's really problematic because you're really locking sprints down to let them hit the target, but they can't hit the target. They can't hit the target because the target is constantly changing. The goals is constantly changing, right? Which leads to a bunch of chaos. It leads to a ton of frustration. And it leads to a bunch of unfinished items in the sprint. I mean, if the sprint is going to be over, right? This time is going to end for the sprint, right? But it's going to be a lot of unfinished items. And so you're going to see team morale just go, wah, 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 wah. I saw Pressure Luck the other day, and it has the whammy on it. It go, meow, meow. It's going to be like that. You just got hit by the whammy. So you want to not have that kind of energy that exists, right? The next thing on the list, and let me not press any strange buttons here, but the next thing on the list, right, is going to be the micromanaging witch. The opposite of which may be a wizard. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But the micromanaging witch, and this is not to point out women or anything like that, not trying to be sexy, but just like the words. The micromanaging witch, right? And when you think about the micromanaging witch, you know who I think about? Scrum Master and product owner, right? They question every move. They question every decision. They are monitoring and trying to control everything that's happening. This can come from outside of the team, but it can come from inside of the team as well. It can be one of the developers, it can be Scrum Master, it can be the product owner. But you know, what they're really doing is casting really dark spells of micromanagement across the whole team. And what it does for the team is it really makes them feel trapped. It makes them feel stuck, right? When you start micromanaging people, now you're removing autonomy, right? When you move autonomy, psychological safety, motivation plummets, right? And so you're going to find innovation, creativity, all stifled, all lost. Right? And teams will be just walking around pretty much like zombies as well because they got that micromanaging witch. So you got to be really careful about that, okay? Last but not least on our list is the isolated phantom. The isolated phantom, right? The isolated phantom is interesting because this is where you consistently have one or more team members that pretty much work in isolation. They are never integrating with other team members. And my statement is clearly this. If you're doing Scrum, you probably got things that a team needs to do, right? You probably got specialized skills on a team, and it's things that a team needs to do. And now you have this person who's a maverick by themselves, who is just truly in isolation. They are really never integrating with the rest of the team. They pretty much become a phantom to the process as a whole. You want to be careful of this because you're going to see collaboration break down, people not want to work with that person, especially if they got any kind of negativity whatsoever. And then the knowledge. You won't find knowledge sharing happening across the team because when they see this happen in isolation, then other people become protective of the knowledge that they do have. When we do want the diversity of thought to happen, and we're not having this. So really the strength that we get from having a team working together just kind of starts to go away, right? And I believe that's number 10, right? And so that gives us those 10 nightmares that can be very well unleashed. Let me go backwards here real quick, and you all tell me, drop it in the comments. What do you think? What do you think is one of the worst things that you've ever seen of all these nightmares? Like when you think about the nightmares, I gave you 10 of them. What would be the worst one you've seen, in your reality, in the world that you exist in, right? I'm going to go through them. Backwards here. Just kind of pay attention here, right? So we left off with number 10, that isolated phantom. You take that isolated phantom, you got that micromanaging witch, which we don't want that, right? We got those shape-shifting requirements, and they do shift shapes sometimes, but not all the time, man. You want to give people an opportunity to get things done. You have the silence of the stand-ups. A lot of us have experienced that. What about the cursed retrospective? Some of us don't even have retrospectives, right? The sprint of the living dead. That's a situation and a half, right? The Franken backlog is something that many of us are used to seeing. The never-ending sprint. You've likely experienced this one time in your career if you've been around Scrum for a few years. The zombie stakeholder, shows up at the end. I got everything. Here's all the changes I've been thinking about. And then you got that ghostly product owner, the first one I talked about, right? For me, if there is one that's the number one nightmare for me personally, it is the ghostly product owner. I've learned how important product owners are, and the ghostly product owner, that's a whole situation. I've had that happen more times in my career than what I want. And that's not something I recommend for anybody to really go through. It's just one of those many, many tough situations, right? So, if you see these things happening, I would advise you to deal with it. I would advise you to deal with all of them, right? Because it's just going to cause a situation where your team's not going to be the best team that it could be, right? Let me take a look at what some of y'all comments are, right? I see over on LinkedIn, Maria says the sprint that never ends, right? That's the situation. The sprint never ending. Maria, I would throw it on it, but I can't throw LinkedIn comments up over here. Let's talk about some other comments I've seen here in terms of some of these situations, right? Hey, Lizzie, how you doing? The Franken backlog is the best. Yeah, it's horrible for us, ain't it? It really is kind of horrible, but it is what it is. You deal with it accordingly, right? So that just is what it is. Let's see. And then let's see. Did I see anything else here? Let's see. Now it becomes waterfall. Yeah, that's what Sharon says. It becomes waterfall. It can very well become waterfall real quick or easy. What are some possible ideas? We'll answer questions in just a minute. So let's come to that in a little bit of time. And then Sharon says the silence of the stand-ups and the sprint of the living dead. Those things suck, right? Especially when you experience them. So that is not what we want to be. Not at all. We want to deal with those things accordingly and then kind of go from there. See me tilting my hat, right? I'm trying to make this situation look cool is what I'm trying to do. Like maybe I'm looking more like Michael Jackson with the tilted hat, right? I don't know. Michael Jackson was never scary to me, right? Thriller, I used to scare the crap out of my little cousin with Thriller. I used to scare the crap out of her, right? Vincent, whatever his name is, would get on and say what he said, and then my cousin would always cry and I would chase her. My cousin is like my cousin sister, right? So all my cousins are like my cousin siblings, right? Because we all grew up together. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and shut that down. I think we talked about this. Hopefully everybody's going to have an amazing Halloween. If you celebrate those kind of holidays, hey, it's all good. Do that. Do I really celebrate those things? I really don't. But, I got a little something around here just in case somebody show up. All right, so that being said, let's start dealing with questions that exist, right? So if you have questions of any kind, you know what you should do? You should start to throw those things in the comments at this point, right? Now, I'm going to try my best to deal with them, and here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try my best to deal with them, and I'm going to try to wear this thing at the same time. I wish it was left-handed, because then I'll use my right hand. So I wish it was left-handed, but I'm going to try my best to, just kind of poke at it, right? So if I'm a little slow with my pokey poke game, just know. Now, again, as I've told you before how we work here, you can add your comments to the actual. You can add your comments, your questions to the comments. And then the next thing that we'll do and we'll deal with is we'll get myself mic'd up here. And we'll see if the mic'd up is going to act up this. Yeah, okay. I see my levels working. So, also, if you want to join us in the interview, you are welcome to do that. So, there's two ways to get your questions answered. Now, to join me in terms of live on the show, I'm going to drop a link in the comments. That link is how you would join me live on the show, right? That link is how you would join me live on the show. So you're welcome to join me live on the show. If you have, a real question that you want to ask and get answered, that's the way to have a conversation, okay? So great. This is amazing. I'm feeling good about all of it. Let me go ahead and go through and double check to see and say hi to people first. Hey, Patrick, how you doing? As usual, it is always good to see you, brother. Always good to see you, right? I didn't, Patrick. What happened? I thought you was gonna come to the bankable breakthrough question and answer thing that we did, right? You supposed to came through, brother. We had a really good conversation. I missed you there, man. I really did. Sharon, how you doing? How's it going? Hopefully you're doing fine, working hard, getting things done, not embarrassing me on the street. You know what I'm saying? Okay, how you doing there? Thanks. This is not really a costume right here, brother. This right here is just something I wear every once in a while when I'm feeling myself. When I'm feeling myself, I wear this. You see this? This is a real rugby thing, man. Look at that. You see that? From my school? I like this thing, man. I really do. I don't wear it often. I probably have worn it 3 to 5 times. One time now. I just love it though, right? So thank you. This is a costume. This is a costume. Man, this is life right here. This is life. See me rub my chest there like I'm somebody? I ain't nobody. All right, so let's see. Who else said, hey, Rajiv, how you doing? Rajiv was with me earlier. Let's see. Atlanta in the house. D, how you doing, D? Hopefully you're good to go. And Sharon, you know I'm not scaring you. I'm not scaring you at all. You'll wind up beating me down. I don't need you to beat me down, Sharon. We good to go. Love you though. Bridget, how you doing, Bridget? How's life treating you? Hopefully it's good. Dallas representing. You know what I should I should ask people to say what city they represent from, right? Me, it's difficult because I like to say Chicago, even though I live down in Texas, but I'm from Chicago. I can't help it. I keep making everything shake. Hopefully that's not bothering you all too much. Hey, Lizzie, my business partner there. How you doing? I'm good. You good? You know, call me when you deal with some mail. Let's see. Becomes waterfall, Franken backlog, da 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 da. Questions, all right? Let's start off here, right? What are some possible ideas to make the daily stand-up more engaging? Um, I hate to say this, right? Um, but if you look at the Scrum Guide 2023, it doesn't recommend that the Scrum Master be there or the actual product owner be there. So my statement to you is simply let the team determine how they believe they should do their daily Scrum. Let the developers determine that. It should be an event where the developers are synchronizing. As long as it's an event where the developers are synchronizing, they can they can choose whatever format that they decide to for that event. So it don't have to be anything that resembles a daily stand-up from our past. What we're used to seeing from the past is the team come into the room, everybody kind of standing up, and everybody basically offering up their answers to three basic questions. What have I done so far to meet the sprint goal? What am I going to do until the next daily scrum to meet the sprint goal? And is there anything preventing me or any other developers from meeting the sprint goal? The focus is around the sprint goal, and we used to always kind of stand up and do those items, right? But here's the deal. Um, that usually led to the scrum master, being the one that is almost telling everybody when to go. And it still was just a form of a status meeting. And what I've learned over time is that a lot of times the scrum master just gets out the way, the product owner gets out the way, and you just let the developers do what they do best. They know how to have a conversation, they know how to collaborate. You just let them go in and figure out, hey, what have we collectively done to meet the sprint goal, and how do we need to adapt our sprint backlog to make sure that we meet the sprint goal? If they go in a room and they just discuss those three questions, I guarantee you in 15 minutes or less they'll be done, they'll be adjusted, everybody will know what direction everybody's going in, because it's really about synchronization. And if you let them pick the format that they choose that works best for them, they will remain interested in it, because it's really about them making sure that the work that they're doing remains on point, remains tight, remains super tight. And you want to put them in that position. The more you put them in that position, it's not necessarily about fun and games and it being lively. It's more about it being engaging and collaborate, and seeing a high level collaboration for the folks that's in the room. Hopefully, it leads to more collaboration outside of the daily scrum is what you want to see. It's more that outside. But if you can see collaboration increasing, the team members, the developers being more engaging, you should be able to deal with it accordingly. And a lot of people be like, well, what about the impediments? Well, they can always come to you anytime with impediments, right? So as a scrum master, you shouldn't worry too much about that. But the idea is that I would let them take ownership of it. I would let them take control of it. If they needed tips and ideas on different formats for different types of retrospectives, different types of daily scrums, stand-ups, I would offer that to them, right? Give them that information so then they can be amazing, right? But other than that, realistically, I find that the best idea is to get out the way. And I know that before even before that was in the Scrum Guide, I would get out the way, and I would find that my teams were extremely productive without me. And as long as they're extremely productive, that's what it's really about, right? It's not really about anything else beyond that. So for me, I would just say kind of get out the way. I find that to be the most effective thing to do in terms of the situation. So I'm not sure if that helps, but you definitely don't want the daily scrum turning into a 15, 20, 20, 30-minute event.
When it starts turning into a 30-minute event, it's definitely about status at that point. I've never seen a daily scrum that lasted longer than 15 minutes that wasn't about status. And now have I had them that probably resemble that? Yeah, especially when it's closer to a release time and we're trying to just synchronize a little bit more. Yeah, I've seen that happen, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But normally for me, I just kind of get it out the way. It's 15 minutes long and leave it at that, right? So be really careful. But if you let them take ownership of it, they'll make it as lively as they need it to be. They'll make it as engaging as they need to be. And as long as it continues to be about that purpose of the developer synchronizing, then you meet the exact purpose of what it's there for. Okay. So that's really what you want to do. And if you do that, I think you're doing a great job by them. Okay. So I will say again, you have any questions, any comments, please drop them in the chat, in the comment section. Um, if you want to join the show, I provided the link already. So please come on in and join me live. Let's continue the conversation here. Bridget, how do you become recertified after 2 years? Okay, so now I'm going to just tell you about what I know. I'm assuming that you're talking about Scrum Alliance. I'm a certified Scrum trainer, so I know more about Scrum Alliance than anything else. But I would imagine that every other certification has its own kind of little rules and nuances that you need to deal with. With the Scrum Alliance, it's really, really simple, right? If you have a foundation level certification, I believe you get 30 Scrum education units. Scrum education units are continuing education. So it's like doing things related to Scrum, right? I mean, you can read books, you can actually go to conferences, you can actually attend this show, right, to earn Scrum education units, right? And what you need to get is a total of 30 of those Scrum education units. I believe that number is right. I'm just taking it off the top of the head. I could be a little bit wrong on that number, but after that first 2 years, you get your 30 Scrum education units, and you pay the Scrum Alliance a fee of $100 at this point in time. You do those two things, right? You got to enter in your experience. You got to enter in your Scrum education units. You got to enter those things in your dashboard, and there's ways to go about doing that. Once you do those things, you pretty much are recertified. Now, the thing that I like about Scrum Alliance that I just like, you renew the foundational level certifications that you have. So if you had a CSM and a CSPO, and let's just say a CSD, these three things are all foundational level certifications. So you renew the foundational level. So that means if you have all three of them would get renewed when you did the 30 Scrum education units and paid the fee. Does that make sense? If you only have one, then you just renew that one. If you had all three, you would renew all three by doing that same thing. Now, let's just say you were fortunate enough and said, hey, I want to become more educated about the Scrum thing, and you would have got an advanced level certification. Well, what I like, and this is the beauty of what I love about the Scrum Alliance, because I have places where I have multiple certifications inside of a governing body that has multiple certifications, and I have to renew those certifications separately. But in Scrum Alliance, I renew the highest level certification that I have, and it will cascade renew everything that's below that. So, for example, as an advanced certified Scrum Master, I renew the advanced level at the advanced level, right? This thing keeps popping up. I need to turn it off, right? I renew at the advanced level. And in me renewing at the advanced level, like an advanced certified Scrum Master, I believe that's 40 Scrum education units, and it's probably maybe $100, 125, 150. I don't remember what the price is. But I believe it's about 40 Scrum education units. I could be wrong, could be 50. But here's the deal. Once I do the advanced level of that 40 and I pay my fee, then what happens? It renews the foundational level ones. So that means the advanced renews anything below it. It renews the advanced and anything below it. If I was professional level, it would renew advanced and the foundational. If I have something above that, then it renews everything that's below it. So what I like about the Scrum Alliance is that there's a cascade renewal. I worry about the highest level. So as a certified Scrum trainer, I worry about the CST level. I pay my money for that thing. I get my Scrum education units for that thing. And then everything else below is going to be kind of auto renewed with it, right? So you just focus on the highest level, and that's all you really, really need to do. I will take this off for a minute, and as we talk here, I just may just put some links out there because I know it's probably just as easy if I give you some links. And it's not difficult to find because on Scrum Alliance website, you'll see these things. So I will throw a link out into the comments section. Um, so and then you can get yourself recertified and know all the steps, right? And so I will go ahead and do that so you can be good to go. And you'll find in the comments section, you'll find a link to get you moving in the right direction and taking the right steps to get that thing done, right? I'll drop it on LinkedIn as well. So if you do that, then you'll be good to go, right? You'll be good to go, right? So just go ahead, Bridget, and take that link right there. That link right there that I dropped in the chat, in the comment section, will tell you the steps that you need to get. And I'm just double checking. Oh, I was wrong. The foundational level certifications are going to be 20 Scrum education units and $100 renewal. That's what that's going to be. 20 Scrum education units and $100 renewal is what it's going to be. So if I go ahead and grab this right here, and just give me a second, I'm gonna copy this, and then I'll just show it on my screen because it'll do that for me. So if I was to take this, it didn't do what I expected it to do. But let me try this one more time to try to take care of you here. Desktop, bam. All right, I just took a screenshot. And if you look here, you'll see on my screen the renewal requirements. I wasn't correct about the foundational level, but you can see them all right here. You have the actual, I'm gonna put this so you can see my eyes. Look at me. Don't I look sexy with my eyes right here? See that? Ain't that correct? Anyway, I'm just talking crazy, y'all, for real. All right, but here's the deal, right? If you take a look here, you can see the cascading effect, right? You see that for the foundation level certifications, it's 20 Scrum education units, $100 renewal fee. For the advanced level, it is going to be 175, but 30 Scrum education units. And if you do the advanced, it cascades down. So you end up doing the foundational and the CAL as well if you do that level. And if you do the professional level, then it will go ahead. That's 250, 40 Scrum education units, and it will cascade down. And once you get past the first 2 years, I believe after that you renew every year. At that point, I do believe. I know I renew it every year, so I don't remember what the other ones do. But this is it says 2-year term, certification 2-year term. So you got a 2-year term. So that being said, hopefully that helps you, Bridget, because that is the relevant information to help you, renew. And it shouldn't be too difficult in terms of renewing. So you'll be good to go. Just go ahead and get it done. Right, go ahead and get it done. But I provide a link for you to help you out. So there you go, Bridget. Let's see. Let's talk. What else are we talking about here? Sharon, what do you do when the PO and dev leads have sidebar calls that they refuse to share with the team? Let me ask a question, and this is really important. I don't mind anybody having sidebar conversations, because sometimes you need to sidebar. I'm always sidebarring with people. The question becomes, is it detrimental to the team? Because, Sharon, here's the deal, right? There's conversations that I will have with a product owner that the developers don't need to have any privy to just yet. We might be talking about something that's maybe 4, 5, 6 sprints away. We may be talking about something that they shouldn't have to worry about at that particular time. And so we may have a sidebar about that. But the question is, are they having healthy sidebars is the question, right? Are they having sidebars that are going to be beneficial for the team, right? And that's what I don't know when you say that question, because to me, it's all about the intent and the reason behind it, if that makes sense. The intent and the reason behind it is very important for you to actually know. I'm putting my claws back on, right? And so for me, if I'm you as the Scrum Master, I would just be a little curious and investigate what kind of information that they're sharing with each other. And based on that, I would just be truthful with them and be like, that if the team doesn't know that, it's going to be detrimental to them. So I think it's something that you should share. Can you really stop the PO and dev leads from having those kind of conversations? I don't think you really can stop it. You know, because they could be very well preparing for some future stuff to make sure that we're all on the same page. They could be, in essence, doing that. And if they are, that could be an amazing thing because you don't want to involve everybody in those conversations. So if I'm you, I would be looking at kind of like the intent behind it, or why they're doing it. What is it that they're trying to achieve out of it, right? And then they may share the relevant information that they need to with the rest of the team, right? So I have no problem with sidebars because I do sidebars all the time because everybody doesn't need to be involved in every conversation. But the question is the intentionality of it. Is it something that ultimately is beneficial for the team or detrimental to the team? And so I'd be looking at it that way. You know, it's like, you know, homicide, murder and homicide is bad, but the words are different for a reason, right? Because it goes back to intent. Murder, homicide, self-defense, you know, just all those things just have different intent behind them. So I would really look at the intent behind it. I would look at the intent. If you look at the intent, I think it'd be very helpful for you. And approaching it that way, I think would be beneficial for you and for them. And just kind of be a little bit of nosy, investigate a little bit, see what kind of information, you know, is worth sharing with the team, with the entire team. But sidebars are going to happen. I don't know how they don't happen. I always have sidebars with people, you know, that don't involve everybody. So I can't say it's an innately bad thing. I can't say it's a good thing either. I go back to what's the intent? What's the intent? Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps, Sharon. I just can't say it's just such a bad thing, right? But I would definitely investigate. You know, if you smell something, you see something that's a problem, it's worthy of investigating. It may not be a problem, but it's definitely worthy of investigating, okay? So thank you for that question, Sharon. I think that was a really, really great question. Um, yeah, man, I showed you my swag earlier for sure. Um, yeah, man. Hey, Patrick, you missed a good one, man. You missed a good one. You missed a really good one, brother. Like you really missed a good one, right? We had a good time. So yeah, you missed a good one, brother. All right, so that being said, oh D, you passed your exam. That's good. I'm glad you passed your exam. You got it out the way. Okay, all right, congratulations. Being in the world of CSM, baby. That's a good situation, isn't it? Trust me. You just get these things out the way so it's over with, right? And I guarantee you, you feel very refreshed after having it over with. You know, some people be like, hey, man, I passed it real low. I passed it in the 90s. I passed it in the 70s. Man, when you see your doctor with the degree on the wall, do you ask him what he got on his test scores? You don't. They got the cert already. They're a medical doctor. It is what it is, right? So you pass, you're good. You're real good, right? Let's see. What's the guest link that I put in the chat? Also, what happens, Bridget? Because I know you kind of new to this as well. Um, People actually come on the show, right? And so they will come on the show and we'll have a conversation. So, for example, if you look right here on the screen, you will see I have an additional window here, right? And so what will happen is I'll bring a guest on and a guest will have a conversation with me and we will exchange. We will just exchange. Does that make sense? That exchange is extremely important in terms of what we're doing because it allows me to be able to have a real conversation with them. So this show, we give people an opportunity to have a real conversation, right? And that's a little bit different than anything else I've seen, right? And so you can throw your questions in the comments or you can come live and we can have a conversation. Sometimes it's just good news that people want to share. Sometimes people have a much deeper question that we need to just have some back and forth about. But that's what the link was for, unless you're talking about the actual renewal link and you recently took your CSM, so you got 2 years before you need to do that. All right, so get past my VSM, CSM exam. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you passed as well, Bridget. That's important to get that CSM out the way, right? And I think you was in the class mid October, right? Um, let's see. Yeah, I'm glad that question. I'm glad that my feedback helped you, Sharon. I just really don't believe just people's actions are innately bad or innately good. The intentionality to me is extremely important. So I need you always, to me, you need to check the intentionality behind what people are doing. So then you're good to go, right? They call me Ken. How you doing there, sir? This is good game. I don't know. I ain't watching the game, Ken. You watching the game while you watching the show? It is Monday night. Yeah. All right. Cool. Continue watching the game, brother. Let's see. So congratulations to everybody who passed the exam. It's important to pass that exam. I'm double checking LinkedIn to see if I have any questions over there. I don't see any questions on LinkedIn at all. Okay, LinkedIn is usually a little bit further behind than what this is. So, so it looks like we may be good to go. So I'm very happy. Hopefully you all are happy too. I'm gonna take this thing off because I just can't really operate with it being on. But hey, this is a pleasure. Any more questions that any of you all may have? Any other question? Any other questions that any of you may have? This little hat is making my head hurt, but I'm gonna keep it. I told myself I'm gonna keep it on the whole show, but I'm gonna tilt it a little bit so I could feel like I'm cool. That's crazy. Yeah. All right then, y'all. Let's see. When you go get your wait a minute. Okay, Bridget, this is a question. When of you can go get your ACSM anytime. So the ACSM requires 1 year of experience. That's what it requires. It requires you to have CSM, 1 year of experience, and then to join the class. Right? It's a 2-day class. I typically do it over 4 days. But yeah, it's a 2-day class. But you just got to have a year of experience. That's it. And the thing that's interesting about the ACSM, the Advanced Certified Scrum Master, for those that don't know, is that you can actually come take the class immediately and then get your year experience. Yeah, literally. I've had people do that. Yeah, I've had people actually do that. It's just interesting, right? It's just interesting. Um, so yeah, you can go do that, Bridget, for sure. Yeah, man, I didn't record it, Patrick. I couldn't record it. I don't, that information that was shared there was really personal, and so I really can't record that kind of stuff like that, right? Um, and then it's stuff that's going to come out later. So always going to come out later. But if you have questions, Patrick, send me your questions, or let's just have a quick conversation. I'd be willing to have a quick conversation with you anytime, Patrick. So just let me know. But the idea is really simple. Yeah, I didn't record it because that information will go out later. But ask Miss White, ask Petra about it. I think I said her name right. Ask her about it. She got a lot of good information out of all the people that were supposed to show up. She don't want to show up. It's crazy, right? But I think you got a question. Let me know. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, getting that first scrum job is important, right? My biggest recommendation to people always is you probably have some experience doing something. Try to look for a job within an area of experience you already have, right? My first few jobs in Scrum was always in insurance companies, even though I didn't do anything related to insurance. But my experience in insurance companies is what helped me to land Scrum jobs in other insurance/finance companies, right? And so I would always say the experience that you have is beneficial for your next opportunity, even if you're not doing anything related to that work. Organizations like to hire people that have worked within their industry in some kind of way. So I think that that's an important thing for you to think about as you look for that next Scrum opportunity. Another thing that I would recommend that you do is there's a Bitter Eagle alumni. Um, his name is John Signo. He does these classes called Brand and Land. I would advise you to get into one of his brand and land classes to help get your LinkedIn right and stuff like that. You do that, I think you will be living a good life, right? I think you'll be in a good place. And so what I'm going to do, and again, I don't make no money off of this. He just been around me since 2014, so he's one of the people that I would almost say mentor to some degree. And so I'm gonna drop that link in the chat for you. So and then you can in the comments, so you can have access to that. Just go on there, and if you go to courses, you'll see the courses that he has coming. And the great thing about it, and it's a little bit behind on the website. I'm looking. But worst kind of worst, go to courses. And if you don't see a date that works for you, then just send them an email. Just send them an email. You send them an email, you'll be good to go, right? He'll make sure you're connected with the right events because the website doesn't look up to date. I'll drop the email address to him, so then you can be good to go. And so I would recommend you go attend a brand and land class to help you get your brand together and get your LinkedIn together. Just solid information. But you'll see that I dropped the email address and just reached out to him. Say, hey, Devon sent me. I'm Bearded Eagle alumni as well because he's a Bearded Eagle alumni like from 2014, like 2014, 2015. Like I started doing, it could be 2013, but I started doing CSM classes back in 2013. And I still have connections with many of the people that I trained back then, right? I probably trained 10 to 15,000 people, whatever that number is. I have no clue. CSM, CSPO, and then other things that aren't certified. I definitely have trained over 15,000 people. And when you just really start to just put it together, many of these people have gone to do much better things, greater things, using Scrum, using other things. And this Brandon Land thing, I found it to be very, very valuable. I actually went to it myself just so I could see how he was doing. Because I would tell him he ain't doing something right, right? And he's doing very well. A lot of great information. I've had a lot of great people go through that and get a lot of value in that 5 hours. It's like 5 hours of densely packed information. So just make sure when you go, you're ready to do the things that's there. So reach out to him. He'll hook you up and make sure you're good to go, right? The number is over 30K for you and me training, Lizzie, because you and me training 30K is, Lizzie, does Scrum training, right? So she's my business partner for Bearded Eagle. And literally, I can see Bearded Eagle doing over 30K people, right? With CSM, CSPOs, and non-certified training, we definitely have trained over 30,000 people in terms of Scrum in general, right? It's facts. Bearded Eagle has done that. Yeah, I agree. Okay, all right. Well, I know I've done a solid 10 to 15 certified, and then a lot more outside of certifications, right? So I know 10 to 15 that I can just list off in terms of email addresses, right? So yeah, we've been around some time, right? We've been around some time. This is not something that's fly by night. Scrum is all that I really do. That's it. Anybody that knows me, they know me for that reason. Makes it hard for me to do other things, right? But the idea is trained a lot of people. Okay, trained a lot of people. So when you come to a Bearded Eagle class, you got people that know what they're doing. And on top of that, don't only train, also go into clients and make sure we do solid work and make sure that they transform. If they don't transform, we tell them, hey man, y'all not doing the right thing. This is what we can do to make it better. So a lot of people train, a lot of great accomplishments. That's how you make multi-million-dollar companies. Anyway, y'all, it's about time for us to wrap up. I think that this has been amazing. I think this has been great. Next week, I want to start talking about product owner. Like I did a lot of work with talking about Scrum Master in the past couple months, but I think next week we're going to talk about tips for prioritizing the product backlog. Just some tips for prioritizing the product backlog. So just make sure you look forward to that. As a Scrum Master, it's helpful. As a product owner, it's definitely helpful. As a member of the development team, it's definitely helpful. So know next week we will be talking about prioritizing the product backlog. I'll get all the information out there by Wednesday and make sure it's all up on LinkedIn and everything else so we can be good to go. But other than that, I'm going to say to you all, this has been a pleasure. Make sure that you have a safe holiday. Don't go out there and do anything crazy. I want to see you, living prosperous in the new year. So just enjoy yourself, enjoy your week, do something really productive for yourself this week. And just remember, another thing that we're going to do is start talking about goals for 2024. We're at the end of the year, but people, I'm going to start working on my goals probably this week, next weekend. And I want you to do the same thing. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish in 2024? Did you accomplish what you plan to do this year? I know for the show this year, we wanted to get to 1,000 people. For the show, we've gotten to 1,000 people. I do believe there's more than 1,000 people subscribed. Could be 1,100 at this point. And next year, we'll make a goal for the show as well, where we'll try to get the numbers up, and do the things that can help people have amazing careers in terms of Scrum, like I have, like other people I know have. So know that next week, prioritization, but in the future, we're going to talk about prioritizing and getting yourself ready for next year. Other than that, it's been a pleasure, y'all. I've enjoyed this time with you. I look forward to seeing you in November. I really can't believe it's November already, seriously. Like, it's like the year has gone past so fast. But that's the way it is every year. I say that every single year. On that note, y'all, hey, look, y'all have a good one. I don't know if this thing's gonna start doing something crazy. Y'all have an amazing one, a really good week. And as long as you're having a really good week, we all good. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place, 8 o'clock, Monday nights, Central Time is what we do. Look, enjoy, have a good one. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.